Hey everyone, we had a really exciting show today where I got to sit down with Hunter and Justin and talk about the value in growing a culture of a business in good seasons and in a 2020 pandemic, and also take a big picture look of what we want this podcast to be about and how we always want to be value driven. So excited for you to tune in. Thanks for listening today. Welcome to the first official Beyond Business podcast. Today, we're going to kind of go through a light little take of what this will look like. We're going to talk a little bit about all of our stories of coming to Beyond Blue and then dive into our vision and heart behind the podcast and hopefully give you an idea of who our ideal interviewee would be. We really want this show to be something that's intentional, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But for today, excited to be here with Hunter Wylie and Justin Thompson. I think to start, we just want to dive into our stories and tell you all a little bit about how we found Beyond Blue and why we're passionate what we do now. So with that being said, I think I want to start off with Justin over here. I love the way that he got plugged into Beyond Blue and what he's done for us in the past years that he's been here. So Justin, thank you for being here. Yep. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Appreciate that, Chris.
Yep. So to start off, maybe tell the people your role at Beyond Blue, and then we'll dive into kind of the story of how you got here.
Okay. I'd love to do that. I do want to take a moment just to kind of like excited for the podcast, excited this to be our first one that we're doing and having a lot of fun with you guys and seeing where this goes. So,
absolutely.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun, and hopefully we can bring a lot of value, but also just make this entertaining and have some fun with people and just try to get something out there that people can enjoy and then find some value in throughout the whole series. So, I guess how I found Beyond Blue or how Beyond Blue found me. I mean, I've been through a kind of a strange career path. I started off originally out of college, graduating with kind of a business marketing and what else did I graduate with?
Money well spent. Yeah.
It's been so long. Communication major. So it was once I got out of there, it was actually in what was that, 2008 or 2009, and so that was coming out right when the housing bubble and that whole thing was happening, and so there was not a lot of jobs really being offered at that point. I ended up in a role at a financial firm that was kind of more dedicated towards the life insurance in general, and then financial advising. Not really something I ever saw myself in, but it was a lot of fun. I learned a lot that I've taken with me even to this day. I had some great mentors there, a great boss, but generally just not something I was looking forward to throughout the rest of my career and through my life. So after I think a few years there, I left, and then I ended up with some friends of mine that got me over into sales, a really heavy sales job with a wholesale lumber company, which is kind of just completely switching gears from anything insurance related.
Right.
And that, again, was a lot of fun. I learned a lot at that career, really as far as high, fast-paced sales, and then a lot of marketing aspects in that job as well. But more than anything was kind of the mentors and the leaders that I was working with, and kind of the management system that we had there was probably the biggest takeaway I had. So through that career, I was working with one of the owners of the company. He's a friend of mine, and so he had actually been coaching me for about 5 or 6 years. I was getting life coaching, business coaching advice from him. We met on a weekly basis, and just through the years really built a really solid relationship with him, and eventually started voicing my frustration with this large corporation. Nothing really bad about them, but just kind of the culture of that corporation was not something I was really excited about continuing. So as soon as I started kind of voicing my interest in leaving, then he instantly kind of piped up and was saying, hey, I have this marketing company that I've started. It's got some great people involved in it. I really just need help kind of with the running of the day-to-day. He's somebody that owns multiple businesses, and so he couldn't really be there with it, and he knew since I had been working with him for so long that I could kind of be an extension of him in the business. And so that's really where then I ended up finding Beyond Blue. That's when Hunter and I met originally.
Yeah.
I remember going to the Rainbow for one of the first meetings we had between you, myself, and then Brian.
Right.
And that was it was amazing. And I just knew where Hunter's heart lied with this business and where he was really kind of passionate on growing this, and it seemed to fit everything I wanted to do. And that was really the start of it. And then from there, we have just kind of blossomed and continue to grow. And now it comes into this podcast and hopefully bringing that same passion, those same values, the same direction that we want to do with our business in whole is now bring that here to hopefully more people in the masses and share what we are already doing here with more people and hopefully cultivate that.
So good.
Love it.
For a long story short.
That's pretty good. It's concise.
That's about 12 years wrapped up in what,
great.
I don't know what that was, 3
Eagle eye
5
view.
minutes.
Yeah. I do want to circle back and ask some follow-ups on that and kind of, revisit the different levels and jobs you had coming up to here. And you already kind of scratched out a little bit of what you saw and what you wanted to improve on, and then hopefully even how we can continue to improve as a company. But for now, I want to move on to Hunter Wylie. He is one of the owners here at Beyond Blue and would love to hear your story about how this company got started, and as Justin kind of alluded to, the values you wanted to bring into it and how you maybe wanted to be a little bit different than the industry.
Yeah. It's been a crazy couple years of running this business, but it's been really fun running it with you two and just seeing how we've grown. So we're a full service digital marketing company here in Northern Colorado, and so we service everyone from nonprofits to large businesses to small mom and pop shops. And so it's just been fun working with all different types of companies. But I started this company with 3 other partners because we just saw a need in the market of so many digital marketing companies that just didn't care about the little guys. And people were just falling through the cracks at other agencies I had worked for. And so it just felt like, man, we have got to start a business that actually cares for relationships with people and cares about results, and it won't let people slide through the cracks. So that was our heartbeat. And we've just been really blessed over the last couple of years. We just hired our 17th employee, and it's just crazy. I mean, to think of, you were the first employee here 3.5 years ago, 3 years ago, right? Yeah, 3 years ago. So just crazy to see where we've come just so quickly, just massive growth. And so now I'm really excited about this podcast to now share our vision, what we did well, what we're not doing well, and then just bring in guest speakers to learn from and lean and glean from their wisdom. So I hope that the people that are listening get a little taste of how we grew so fast, and then also just get to hear from some other industries and other leaders around Colorado and around the region that we can just interview and get wisdom from. So I am pumped for this podcast with you guys.
There you go. He did even more concise than you did.
He did, yes. Less years he had to wrap up.
That's
there.
true.
Right.
That's true.
Yeah, there you go. Because 50, is that what it is?
Yeah, thanks. The old guy in the young group.
Yeah. Just with the 2 hooligans. To kind of give everybody out there a little background about myself, as Hunter was alluding to, and then we'll kind of hop through, and I want to touch on a few things that these guys said about the podcast. I was technically the first employee at Beyond Blue. I was going into my senior year of college at the time, and was a personal trainer for the rec center on our campus gym, and was just looking for something. I knew I had to step away from the job because something else was coming up, and time commitments. And I'd known Hunter for a little while, and he had actually posted about it on Facebook. And so I had responded, I think, either via Facebook or through text. And when I showed up to my unofficial interview, he didn't actually know it was me showing up. He thought it was another Chris he knew. And so I came around the corner and he goes, "Hey, man, what are you doing here?" I'm like, "Oh, we're here to talk about the company." He's like, "Oh, okay, great." So, I had a conversation, found out a little bit about what you guys were doing. And at the time, I had no experience in marketing. But, you were willing, and Brian was willing to kind of take me up and teach me, and then kind of throw me to the fire and let me learn and teach myself.
Right.
So I've had a variety of roles since we started, from managing social media to sales to now plugging in and diving in and building relationships with our clients, which has been awesome. I think for myself, as you guys touched on, vision behind this podcast is to really dive into the stories of other business owners and obviously ourselves, because I think there's power in sharing those stories and hoping to build a community where business owners, like you said, can relate to one another, talk about things they're trying to solve or problems they're having, and use that community to glean wisdom from one another.
Amen.
And grow that up and build each other up. And then obviously through our guests, have them,
Right.
Hopefully be open and share about what they've done well and what they haven't done well, so that people, either with a young business or even with an old one, can glean something from it.
Right.
So I hope this podcast is beneficial for a first-time entrepreneur to someone who's been a serial entrepreneur their entire lives.
Right.
So yeah, I guess to circle back real fast, I do want to dive into more of the specific vision behind the podcast. But I guess, Justin, for yourself, you had talked, I know culture is big for you,
Yes.
and specifically the culture of Beyond Blue.
Right.
And so coming here from the previous jobs you've had, and then as your role now as a marketing executive and really overseeing a lot of the interior and overseeing the team awesome team that we have that is kicking butt for our clients on a day-to-day, what from the beginning was a non-negotiable as far as culture? I know Brian did a great job and Hunter did a good job handing you the keys. So for you, what was kind of the non-negotiables? And then how, in your mind, did you think it was going to work implementing a culture? And then I'll have another follow-up question after that.
Okay.
Hopefully I don't do too many at once.
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. I didn't see it going there. So good on you. A first-time podcast interviewer. I think if I had to pinpoint something right now, the first non-negotiable was really, and it was easy because I think this was already set up from what Hunter was kind of building here, but it's about the people, man.
Right.
It really is.
Right.
Most importantly, I think, I've always thought this, and the cool thing is this is a learning experience too, right? Like there's still a ton that I'm learning. And trying to grow with this. But I've always had the philosophy that if everyone we have at the company is, and it's work. So work is, there's always probably something better you could do or more fun, as far as traveling or going on the beach or enjoying yourself or whatever it is, but it's work. So as when we're working, as long as the people are happy, they know they make a difference. They're enjoying what they do. They enjoy the people that they're working with. If that is all true, then in my mind, it's nearly impossible for that to not bleed through with everything we do as far as the work we're putting out, and then how our clients feel about us and the work and kind of the progress they see with us. I just don't see how that doesn't shine through. Now there's certain scenarios I'm sure that come up that, someone has a bad day or whatever, but on the overall average, if we're all happy coming into work, if we focus on the people that are here, I just can't see that not coming through with how our clients feel about who we are and what we represent.
So good.
So that was probably the first thing that came to my mind when you said non-negotiable that I brought. Yeah.
Yeah. Love that. And I think that I've definitely seen that in myself in the way that you have poured into me, and then also several of the members of our team. We continue to grow. I've heard these stories of you continuing to be intentional and not just see them as website developer A or B. You really are wanting to get to know them. We'll move on to Hunter.
Although I do always call you employee number one.
Right.
So
that's true.
It's important to distance yourself from me. I get that. Yeah.
That's just because I feel like you're number one, right?
Sure.
Yeah. Good word.
Only follow-up I had thought of in that is because I know you've talked about this recently, but here in 2020 with the way business has shifted with dealing with a global pandemic and having to move everything more virtually and obviously keep people safe while still trying to take care of our people and our clients. What does that look like specifically for you in being intentional and keeping culture? Because we've hired, 6 new people since everything kind of shut down.
Right.
And so our team has grown significantly.
Right.
And so we've had to make sure that we can keep the culture while hiring new people while we're not really in an office setting, where I think looking back on the first 2 years, 2.5, when we were in the office, it was really easy to develop that. So what does that look like specifically on your end of what have the challenges been? And then, how are you continually learning to address them of we hire a new web developer in July, and you now have to make sure that they get what we're about over a Zoom call or only seeing them in person maybe once a month.
That's good.
Yeah. I think challenge is the right word there for sure. It has been a really big challenge, and it's really cool to think about. As you said, the words of like, we've hired 6 people since this, COVID pandemic has hit and really shut down our economy, that we're still growing that. And that just is a testament to who we are and what we're trying to represent and hopefully build here. But so our community is strengthened because of, the things we've established in the foundation. So I just, the challenging part for me personally is, and I think you both know this about me, and I would say both of you are this way as well, as far as like, I love interacting with people. I love being in the same room with somebody. And so it has been really challenging that we can't have that, and also respecting people when they feel like they're not comfortable coming in, or maybe they just don't feel like they're feeling well, maybe something completely different, but it's important for them to then stay home. And so it's definitely a balancing act that has been challenging, but changing that, I think there's been more the thing that, and we actually, I wrote a little piece and it got published in a small little publication, but about the thing that I saw shifted is, some of those phone calls I would normally have turned into Zoom meetings. So now all of a sudden, instead of just talking to someone on the phone, I am looking at them face to face, and it has some elements of being able to kind of communicate in a way that seems more like sitting in the same room, although it still is different. But
maybe even sitting in their living room or their office at their house.
Well,
like it feels even more intimate sometimes.
Yeah, that's exactly. You kind of get like all of a sudden it, like you both have seen this on some of the calls, and my 2 daughters will all of a sudden run in the room, or you see someone's dog on the Zoom call, and you're right. It brings a little bit more of that personality, and I love that has shifted in a way. But I still, we had our first team meeting the other day, where the majority of us, there was only 2 people that couldn't make it for various reasons, but that we all got in the same room, and we were doing something together, and it felt so energizing to me. So I love that, but there's pros and cons to it all, but really just kind of focusing on still maintaining that the values and the level of what I want to bring as a leader, and to help people grow, is just be there for them and let them know that they do matter. So calling them out of nowhere and just saying, hey, like, thank you for taking this initiative and doing what I asked, or finishing this when it was supposed to be done, or whatever it may be. And one thing we have, and we use Slack for a lot of internal communication. So, and that's great. Our first ambulance.
That's right.
So
we like it organic.
Yeah, exactly. So, but we have a big wins channel that we've had pretty much from day one. Almost. And it's just awesome to just share the cool things people are doing. And it really is a wide range of what we do. But that's probably the biggest thing. It's a challenge, and it will continue to be a challenge for me, because I am such an in-person relational type of individual. That's okay. I learn and I grow, and some people enjoy the way that now things are happening. So people like to work from home maybe a little bit more often. So that maybe feeds into them more than coming into the office. So it's just something we kind of learn and grow with, I think, more than anything, and I accept the challenge. So
yeah, that was a great face to make. Just tuned in. Before I move on to Hunter, I was gonna say, I think I didn't mention this in the beginning, but in my role now as a client relations consultant, kind of similar to you, where my job is to interact with our clients, take their ideas, organize them, and then pass it on to the team who do all the very smart people work, where they're actually the ones putting their creative designs into it, or on the SEO side of plugging in, the effort and code required for whatever's in that campaign. And so similarly, I've tried to make an intentional focus now more than ever with COVID, because I can't have little conversations in the office anymore to check in on people. Just yesterday or a few days ago, I sent our creative director, John, a fun article about artists that had revisited their old pieces of artwork a few years later and had seen a difference in the level of talent they had, just as something. So it's like, hey, I don't want every time I Slack you to be an emergency or something to do.
Yeah.
I want sometimes for it to just be something
That's
personal
awesome.
that I know you love.
So good.
And plenty of room for growth there.
Yeah.
Because there's definitely days where you got to just put your head down and get through it. But I think there's the moments where you get to take a step back and breathe and hopefully, put a little smile on somebody's face. Is, I think, great as far as, especially now more than ever.
That's
people-
awesome.
Amen.
Yeah.
Yeah, so good.
Yep. So Hunter, for yourself, similarly, I want to take a step back for, Beyond Blue, the starting years of 2017 in the fall when we were kind of setting things up. For you, when it was just me, and then as we started to bring people on, in those early years of building that culture, what were some of like the tiny L's we took that we learned from to then say, okay, this is a value we do care about. This is one we're not going to prioritize as much, because there was a lot of shifting because we were really just, we were a company trying to find our identity at the time.
Right.
And so what were some of those things in the initiatives, even up and through when we got Justin, he started to really pour into that as well of the things that you saw of like little L's we had to take of, hey, we want this, but not this.
Yeah. So many losses at the beginning, but I've said this from day one. I'm a broken record with this. That is the tuition that we pay as leaders and as business owners is taking financial loss, taking time loss, all of it is part of it. So I couldn't agree more that there were lots of L's, but it was the best thing that catapulted us into the next season. To be honest, the clients that we were bringing in just weren't our ideal clients, and so we're still learning that. But we were bringing on people that had $200 a month to spend on marketing, but we just couldn't help them with that amount of money. But we were bringing them on because we were so small, and so we were hurting ourselves by doing that. And so in turn, I think just those L's catapulted us into finding out who we really were. We're still finding out who we really are, but that was like the thing that multiplied that. So really good. And then I think we just learned how to be efficient. We were only able to handle a very small percentage of a book of business. Now we can do 100 times that, just because we've put together an in-house team and we have softwares that make us faster and we've gotten more organized. So I think all those losses at the beginning were just huge for us to be where we are now.
Right.
Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. As you were talking, I was thinking of a story. Justin, your mic is freaking out just a little bit today.
Okay.
Might fall in your lap at some
Don't
point.
mind that.
You're like, there's
Set
like
up.
2 little threads of tape that was holding down that back piece. As you were talking, I was thinking about,
First
when we,
podcast.
first podcast. That's the hashtag. All the blips along the way. As you were talking, Hunter, I was thinking about, one of my first roles here was managing social media.
Yeah.
And I started with about 5 accounts, and then by the time I transitioned and handed it off, I think it had grown up to 25 or 30.
Right.
And when I first started, I was thinking about this because it was the summer of 2018 when I had gotten married, and I was planning ahead for a few weeks in advance because I knew I was going to be out of town for a week for our honeymoon.
Right.
And so what I ended up doing, because we didn't have a software at the time, I took literal screenshots of the photos I was going to use for a post.
Right.
And then put the caption or copy in a Google Doc and just had a big, long Google Doc of, hey, here's the image, here's the copy. You're going to have to go in and manually post it to a Facebook account or an Instagram account every day for this week because this is what I just do. Like, we don't really have a scheduling software, and just handed it over to Matt, our ads director, and said, hey, have fun.
Right.
And then disappeared for a week. So to think about where we're at now with Hey Orca, which is, if you haven't heard of that, it's a social media management software where you can schedule it out for 2 months in advance and it'll automatically post for you. It's just funny to think about.
We're not paid by Heyorka.
Yeah,
it's
not
have
paid.
to edit that out.
But if Heyorka wants to sponsor us, we're in for that.
Speaking of which, Hey Orca. So just it's great to think about how that, even as I was handing it off, made my life easier, and then now hopefully our current social media team, it hopefully makes their lives easier as far as if I'm going to be out of town, I can just schedule it in advance and it'll run without me. So I love that piece.
So
it's
good.
definitely, little L's, but we enjoy it.
Amen. Amen.
Similar to Justin, shifting to 2020 in the business year, I think you've always done a great job from what I've seen, because there's a level of separation as far as where the business is at and how much that is shared with the team. You've always been very transparent, and I think about that big team meeting we had out in that little mountain office. I don't know how long ago it was, a few years ago or something like that, but the transparency of like, hey, here's where we're at financially. Here's where we're at with these things. Here's where we want to be.
Right.
So in a year like this, where it can probably be easier to panic, how have you kind of balanced what the team needs to know and what you need to strategize and look ahead to? Because speaking personally, I've never felt stressed about where we're at. I was never worried when things shut down where we were going to be.
Right.
And I think you always did a good job displaying calmness, maybe if that wasn't always the case. So I'm curious how you played that balance of what was shared and continually is not shared. Because sometimes we just don't need to know, and it's for the big higher ups to think about.
Yeah, I mean, there was for sure some panic when the pandemic hit, of like, what the hell are we gonna do? Like, how are we gonna make this happen? So there was definitely panic there for me, but quickly realized, like, man, why am I panicking? We have the best team. Our clients are unbelievable and have stuck it through with us and are thriving throughout this process. A lot of them with marketing, and so we've been able to double down and get a ton more new clients. And so I think it took me a second to step back in something that we call the war room, which is like a room like this that we just, basically lay down the map of where we're at as a business. And I think it took me to like get out of the business to look in the business. And once I did that, I was able to see like, man, not only are we okay, but we're thriving. And like we have to hire a crap ton of people to meet the demand. And so we're still seeing that. But I think time and time again, what I'm seeing is the second that I'm like in the trenches, like overwhelmed, I make horrible decisions as a leader, truly. So the second that I can kind of get out of the trenches and then look and see what's happening in the war, I'm able to strategize. Justin and I strategize of, okay, where are we headed next? Like, what's the next strategy? How are we going to execute? So that is what this year has been for us, is the war room.
Love that. That should be the title of this podcast.
I think there is.
This episode,
I think there's like a Fox News, something that's like the war room.
There you go.
So don't tread on Fox News. They'll come after us.
We don't want to battle Fox News. Well, appreciate you guys just being transparent and open about where we're at and how you've had to deal with those different difficulties and challenges. I think to wrap up here, in the last few minutes, and we touched on it in the beginning, but we want to dive into the specifics of the podcast because, really all of us are going to be involved. It'll mainly be Justin and I, but then you'll be dropping in and overseeing. And so I want to kind of get your guys' feedback, and I'll wrap us up as far as when you look at the overall vision of the podcast, who would be an ideal, these are just a couple questions that get some things going, but who would be an ideal guest? What do you envision like the mission and vision statement to be for the podcast, or what do you see if there was a perfect episode? What would that look like for you? And then maybe to help cap that off, if we look 2, 3, 5 years down the line, what do you want this to look like as far as the level of the show or where it's at or who it's reaching? Okay. So I'll start with you, Justin.
Starts with me. Okay. So
you have all the time to think.
Honestly, from those questions, I don't know. Honestly, like I think that's part of the beauty of this is that's kind of how business works, is sometimes you get into it thinking one way and it's going to take you a completely different way.
Right.
And so I love the idea that we're kind of jumping into this with like, let's figure this out on the fly. Let's figure this out as we go.
Right.
Now there's certain people we'd love to have on the podcast. I think people that fit our kind of like ideals and our values and things like that. But you never know. In my opinion, like I've always had that philosophy in life of just, you can learn something from everybody. If you're looking at it the right way. I tend to be more of that kind of eternal optimist. And so like, I'm always like, hey, no matter what situation you're in or who you're talking with, like there's something to be learned. And there can be positive taken out of that. And so I don't know yet necessarily who that perfect person is or what this will look like in the future. The biggest thing that I want to do is what we do every day here is how do we provide the most value for everybody listening or anyone coming here. And then really just and again, I want to have fun with this. I want to see us kind of enjoying the process, and getting people on here that, like Hunter said earlier, that we can just learn from. That not only are we learning as we're talking with them, but then that's giving tremendous value to everybody listening, and they can learn something in just a way that it makes sense to how business works, right? Because it's not a black and white thing. It's not a clear line, a straight line. It is something that often gets muddied, often takes you around a corner that you didn't think would happen. And sometimes that can be a good thing and bad thing, but you learn and you grow and then you move on from that. So that's the biggest thing that I see with this is just as we go through here, we're going to learn more and we're going to find some great people. I mean, that's the beauty of this is we work with so many, I mean, there's just so many beautiful people in this world, right? I mean, really honestly, when I say that, it's not like a thing I'm trying to be cute here. There just is like we work with some awesome people that nobody would ever hear from. They're not like somebody that and we can now bring them on our podcast and talk to them about their mission and what they're doing and what they're trying. And so it'll be fun to do that. Now, how that will be received, I don't know yet. So we'll have to kind of decipher that as we go. But that's the biggest thing is just how do we give everybody who's going to take their time to listen to this the most value and maybe have a little fun while they're doing it.
Love it.
Yeah.
I think if that's the thought between every show, we can't lose. And that's not to say like we want this to be the biggest podcast in the world, but if that's the vision behind every episode, then it's going to be fun and it's going to bring value. And
Amen.
Maybe we never make $1 off it, and that's okay. Because as long as we're feeding people and we have an audience of 100 that's being fed, I'm happy.
Amen.
and that's kind of honestly, if we're doing this with like kind of you, Chris, as the host or us as the hosts, like I love that idea because I don't think there's anyone in this world that likes to have more fun, that likes to laugh more and smile more than you. So like, I know you'll always bring that positivity and that like that fun nature to what we're doing to try to like, hopefully the people we bring on here then feed off of that and feel that and can kind of drop their guard a little bit. Cause this can be a little intimidating too, right?
Sure.
You're sitting here with mics. You feel like you have to be on, you feel like you have to like represent in a certain way. Hopefully we can kind of draw that down a little bit and get to like the true essence of people and what we're trying to do here. So
well said.
So good. Could not agree more, and want to make it really clear because there's so many podcasts where they will like give you a little something, and then you have to buy something on their website to get the rest of the good information. That is not our intent.
Totally going to be doing that. That's like definitely what we're doing.
Pyramid scheme.
We'll just,
it is
just right from the start. We're just going to let you know we're going to be charging you a lot of money down the road.
There's an exciting market for a new pyramid scheme option.
No, we really, honestly, this is just a conversation, and selfishly, we want to learn from people that are not ourselves. So come along with the conversation with us because, we want you to be at this table with us, whether being interviewed or just listening on what other people have, because we firmly believe that we can learn from every human being on this earth. And we want to have leaders in here that have insight that we don't have. So.
That's so well said. I think the only thing I was going to add is kind of what's been touched on is I want people that we hopefully can bring their guard down and are willing to share about the highs and lows of running a business, whatever that looks like, from mom and pop to an e-commerce, whatever it is. Like I said in the beginning, I really want to hear the stories, and I want to hear about their journey as a business owner and the easy parts and the hard parts, and hopefully there's some fun involved as well. Because I think overall business is fun, but there's going to be times like March of 2020 where you're going to have to get a little honest and say, I was in my room and I was pounding the wall because I didn't know what to happen. And then the next day I was able to take a breath and take a look back, and this is how we executed.
Amen.
So excited to see the stories that come out of it, because I think both of you nailed it on the head as far as there's so many everybody out there has their own little unique story and their own little unique way of handling something. And so there can't not be value in that for somebody out there. So
good.
So excited to do that. For all of you out there, appreciate you for making it through the first episode. We had a few quirks along the way, but lots of laughs as well. And just so excited to dive into this with the Beyond Blue podcast. There's one for you. See?
There you go.
Right at the end. And we will hopefully tune in soon and hear from you again.
All right. Thanks, guys.
All right.